Zoom it in. As is Ross.
Nice.
All agree.
All aligned.
Good evening. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. Meeting details and the draft agenda were also posted on our township website. Please all stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Thal Eglo?
Here.
Mr. Vinayak?
Here.
Mr. Wasserman?
Here.
Mayor Miggins?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. A quick revision to resolutions 22-181, 22-182, 22-183, and 22-184 in regards to the overlay zoning ordinances. Under section 1 in each resolution, the settlement date was erroneously listed as August 19th and is now corrected to August 17th, 2022. 2021. Thank you. Due to the heavy business before the committee this evening, I am making a motion for the Township Committee to revise the agenda to move reports to later in the agenda before old business. May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thal Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the April 19th, 2022 regular Township Committee minutes?
Motion.
May I have a second? May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Tonight, resolution 22-169, I'm going to refer to Chief Gilfetter, seeing he will provide the backgrounds for the confirmation of two gentlemen joining our police department.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the committee and the mayor for allowing us to present two candidates for police officer tonight. The two candidates. First, we have Benjamin Carroll, who resides in Morristown, New Jersey. Ben has 4 brothers and a sister. He has a bachelor's degree in international relations from Rutgers University. Ben joined the Army National Guard in 2012 and remains in active service. He had 2 deployments overseas in Bahrain and Djibouti, Africa. In January 2022, he was hired by the Morris County Sheriff's Department. And in June, he graduated from the Morris County Police Academy as a certified police officer. He will start his field training tomorrow, and he'll be eventually assigned to the patrol division. We also have Dakota Palmer, who resides in Bud Lake with his parents. He has an older brother and a younger sister. He has an associate's degree in business administration from Morris County College. He joined the Army National Guard in 2013 and honorably discharged in 2022. Dakota served 1 deployment overseas in Somalia. In January 2022, Dakota was hired by the Morris County Sheriff's Department. In June, he also graduated from the Morris County Police Academy as a certified police officer. He will also start tomorrow with his field training and assigned to the patrol division.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve resolution 22-169, which confirms the appointments?
So
Motion.
moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thal Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gaddy, you will now issue the oath of office. That'll be good luck.
I state your name.
I, Ben Carroll,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police officer
the duties of police officer
of the Milburn Township Police Department
of the Milburn Township Police Department,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thanks so much. Thank you. Welcome.
Congratulations, officer. I'm shaking hands from right here.
Thank you so much. Okay.
His parents, his parents too. His parents are here. That's nice.
I state your name.
I, Dakota Palmer,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police officer
the duties of police officer
of the Milburn Township Police Department
of the Milburn Township Police Department,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, officer.
That's all right. Ms. Prupus is now going to offer a proclamation to Police Chief Gilfetter.
Thank you.
Whereas the National Association of Town Watch sponsors a national community building campaign on Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022, entitled National Night Out. Whereas the National Night Out campaign provides an opportunity for neighbors in the Township of Milburn to join over 38 million neighbors across approximately 16,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, and military bases worldwide. And whereas National Night Out is an annual community building campaign that promotes police community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make our neighbors safer, neighborhoods safer, more caring places to live. And whereas neighbors in the Township of Milburn assist the Milburn Police Department through joint community building efforts and support National Night Out 2022. And whereas it is essential that all neighbors of the Township of Milburn come together with police and work together to build a safer, more caring community. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Milburn, in the County of Essex, State of New Jersey, do hereby call upon all neighbors of the Township of Milburn to join Milburn Police Department and National Association of Town Watch in support for National Night Out on Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. Signed, Maggie Higgins, Milburn Township.
So this year, we're gonna have our National Night Out at Ballard Park. It's gonna be between 6 and 9 p.m. on August 2nd. We'll have DJ there, junkies for the kids, all our public safety agencies, the township departments. So please come out and have a night of fun. Thank you.
We're going to move to public comment. I just wanted everyone to be aware of the fact that, for those of you who don't know, when we do public comment is 3 minutes. We don't use our time or pass our time. We don't answer anyone during public comment. We allow you to come up and speak at the lectern. And then at the end of public comment, when public comment is finished, then everyone on the committee and our professionals will answer questions, any questions you may have. I just want you all to be aware of it, just in case you haven't come to any of our township committee meetings. We see a few new faces.
We
So
see a lot of new faces.
when invited to
Welcome.
speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak loudly so that your comments may be understood by all and properly recorded. For the convenience of our community, there is a remote option available. So if you call in and would like to comment, please press *6 now. If you are attending by computer or electronic device, please click the raise hand button. All members of the public wishing to speak will be put into the queue to address the committee. Whenever an audience or committee member reads verbatim from a prepared statement, please email a copy to the Township Clerk's office at townclerk@milburntwp.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. You will be prompted when there's 30 seconds remaining. Each individual will be given 1 opportunity to make their public comment. Please be patient, and we will address each member of the public that wishes to speak. This is a business meeting, and please do not address professionals or staff directly, and please direct all your comments to me. A reminder that we are all neighbors, and we do not tolerate personal attacks. I will now open the public comment period. And we'll pick everybody in the room. We'll do the room first. So, and just in case there's people that have little children here and they want to come up earlier, please do. And then we'll go to the Zoom option. Okay, thank you. Don't all jump at once. You could just come right to the lectern. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I have a printed version. Should I be handing that to someone? Or
When-
just
when
Afterwards, we
Yeah,
could take a copy. Yes, ma'am.
You need to speak into the microphone.
Yes,
so the
please.
Zoom people hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alex, can we move that closer?
Is that?
Thank you.
Okay. Now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. First, let me say that I am in favor of creating affordable housing.
Ma'am, I'm going to interrupt you and ask you just who you are and where you live.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Stephanie Morgan, 49 Greenwood Drive.
Thank you.
Milburn. So I am in favor of creating affordable housing in our township. I've developed real estate in New Jersey myself since 1985 on behalf of corporations, and I'm very familiar with the affordable housing requirements, which have been ignored by most municipalities, including ours, for years. If past planning board and township committee members were properly informed, but made the decision to kick the can down the road, we're now suffering the consequences. But we still have the right and the ability to comply sensibly. Despite the action or the inaction of past township committee and planning board members, our administrator, planner, and council have all known full well since April of 2018, when a builder's remedy suit was filed by the Silverman Group regarding 58 Chatham Road, that we were going to have to come up with an affordable housing plan to satisfy the Fair Share Housing Center. Yet it wasn't until June 2nd, 22, that a draft of the housing element and fair share plan was submitted to the planning board and the township committee. There was ample time between April 2018 and June 22 to educate residents about COA and engage us in a process to achieve consensus as to the overlay districts that should be created and the best way to scatter the density of affordable housing throughout the township, using both renovation of existing units and construction of new housing. Selecting overlay zones would show little promise of development anytime in the near term. For example, Canoe Brook shows a complete lack of seriousness and foresight. The delay also forced us into hasty decisions, approving development of the former Annie Says property for over 60 units per acre, proposing only a portion of the DPW site be developed for 75 low-income housing units, and glossing over critical details, including design, engineering, green space, setbacks, stormwater management, parking, etc. We did need to act expeditiously within those 2+ years to avoid being backed up against a wall. That we are as a result of dereliction of duty on the part of our past and present elected and appointed officials and council. Scare tactics have convinced township committee members and many residents that the only choice is to approve the affordable housing plan settlement to be faced with the risk of builders' remedy lawsuits or takeover of our planning board by Fair Share Housing Center and a court order to increase the number of affordable units. In conclusion, As residents, we have the right to be informed and to be timely engaged, especially in matters having far-reaching and long-term consequences. I urge you to remember the representations you made as nominees and the responsibility you accepted once elected. We urge you to cast your vote to renegotiate a fairer, wiser settlement agreement because having the right plan vastly outweighs the threatened risks.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan.
Renee Paparian, 64 Mountain View Road. Reading the Fair Share Housing Settlement Agreement makes it abundantly clear that the overlay zoning changes that you will vote upon tonight will not have the same foreseeable effects on all township neighborhoods. The plan ensures that very few of the town's neighborhoods will experience either change to overall character or great detrimental impact to population, elementary school, traffic congestion, or street safety. You have told us that the plan you negotiated is better than it could have been. For whom is it better? You've left one area highly impacted while some other township neighborhoods have been totally exempt or will be only minimally impacted. These obvious disparities were highlighted when, at a recent meeting with South Mountain residents, a township committee member made the disturbing statement, "If you don't like it, move to Short Hills." We're one municipality and all neighborhoods should be treated similarly. Either during negotiations or prior to voting to pass the settlement agreement, did you ever calculate the total number of apartment units, RDP plus unmet need, that you were agreeing to have built in the township? At the last township committee meeting, you didn't have or wouldn't share the acreage of the B2C overlay zone when my husband asked for it from you so that he could calculate the number of possible apartments to be built there. Glenn later did the research and determined that the total number of apartments looming in the future of Milburn Avenue abutting South Mountain is 600, 750 including Annie says. While you may or may not have been fully knowledgeable about the terms of the settlement agreement, when negotiating and voting for it, it is undisputed that the Milburn community had no prior knowledge of any of the terms of the settlement agreement, which you acknowledge was negotiated and agreed upon in an intentionally covert manner. In reliance upon your counsel's advice, you intentionally excluded the community from knowing about or participating in discussion of any component of the settlement agreement until after it was agreed to by the TC. The good news is that the settlement agreement can be amended. Page 18, paragraph 30 of the settlement agreement states, "The agreement may not be modified, amended, or altered in any way except by a writing signed by each of the parties." Said in another way, if all parties to the original agreement consent in writing, then the settlement agreement may be modified, amended, or altered. So please don't say that change is not possible or that dire consequences will follow a request of the court to do so. An attorney representing Milburn's best interests has compelling grounds to seek time to modify the plan, and obviously no court would grant that request and simultaneously revoke builder's immunity. An opportunity exists for Milburn to create a more tenable plan for the entire community and still maintain the RDP of 114 units. Outlines of just such plans have been presented to the community by Jerry Kung and Frank Sacamandi. The terms of the settlement agreement expressly allow it to be modified, and you will not be serving this community if you will not try. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Frank Sacamandi, and I live on Lee Terrace,
Which number, sir?
17.
Thank you.
Last week, my husband and I ran a quantitative and comparative analysis on the impact of the Fair Share Housing Settlement Agreement. The results are shocking. The zoning changes on the agenda tonight will irreparably destroy the character of our town. More than 4,000 new housing units could be created by these zoning changes. Adding to the 470 new units required in other parts of the settlement agreement, this could lead to a population increase of almost 70%. Even if the new overlay zones are not built out completely, we would still be dealing with a level of overdevelopment that will overwhelm our schools, roads, and infrastructure. After comparing our agreement to similar towns, it becomes obvious that Miggins and Wasserman simply don't understand the meaning of negotiation. Milburn is being asked to satisfy 70% of its unmet need, whereas other towns like Upper Saddle River, Rumson, and West Orange are only being asked to satisfy between 20 and 50% of their unmet need. Maggie Miggins may need to revisit Real Estate 101. The most basic lesson is you always have to do the comps. If someone bothered to do the comps, they would have realized that this is a terrible deal. Perhaps Maggie realized she's a weak negotiator, and maybe that's why she brought in Beth McManus. McManus worked to negotiate with Fair Share Housing, and together they concocted this ill-conceived plan. McManus should have known we were getting a raw deal, though considering she often serves as the mediator in other town settlements. To date, we still don't know why our town planner of 15 plus years was forced out to make way for McManus, who had an obvious conflict of interest. The poor hiring decisions don't end with McManus. The Gang of Three continues to employ Ed Buzak as its Fair Share Housing attorney. Buzak has on multiple occasions claimed the contents of the agreement were subject to court-ordered confidentiality until after approval by the Township Committee. This was a flat-out lie. Judge Gardner stated that there was no such court order. Buzak knew what he was doing. In fact, when serving as Denville's Fair Share Housing attorney 1 year prior to lying to us, he led an information session to inform Denville's residents of the contents of their agreement prior to their Township Committee voting on it. If that had happened here, then there is no way this would have been rammed through, because residents would have demanded that it be rejected and renegotiated. I hereby call on this committee to pass a motion to fire Ed Buzak and Beth McManus and replace them with competent professionals who will properly advocate for our town. I call on you to instruct new counsel to go to Judge Gardner and ask for more time for the town to renegotiate a fairer settlement agreement, this time following proper procedure by allowing the public to review and discuss the renegotiated settlement before it is put to a vote. Given all the irregularities that have occurred with our settlement process, a competent new attorney should be able to convince the judge to give us more time. If this Township Committee does not take these steps and instead pushes through these zoning ordinances, then I think it's clear that they have breached their fiduciary duty and are no longer fit to govern.
Jerry Kung, also of 17 Lee Terrace. The theme of my statement tonight is facts over fear. The Township Committee has repeatedly engaged in fear-mongering. It's not clear if they're being misled by Buzak or if they're trying to discourage civic participation. I sincerely hope that it's the former. You can see their attempt to terrify residents in their press release, prominently promulgating Fair Share Housing's litigants' rights motion. The fact is, this is just a motion. Fair Share can file for whatever it wants. It does not mean that it will pass, and it will not be adjudicated on until after the final compliance hearing. Speaking with residents across town, I've heard many concerns relating to the courts taking over our zoning, which happened in Englewood Cliffs. Again, let's address the fear with some facts. The fact is that our situation is patently different. Nonetheless, there's actually a lot to learn about the process if we delve into the details. Here are the facts. They went to trial in August 2019. After not reaching a settlement with Fair Share, the court found that they had acted in bad faith to avoid compliance. 6 months later, the judge ordered them to build a 600-unit site and draft a compliant plan in 90 days. After they again refused to comply, the judge stripped them of their zoning rights in April 2020. Another 6 months later, in October 2020, Englewood Cliffs settled with Sylvan, the builder who brought suit. In this agreement, the 600-unit site was actually reduced to 450 units. What's the takeaway? For the court to take over our zoning, there would need to be a long, protracted trial, the results of which are not guaranteed. In fact, Fair Share expressly acknowledged that they were settling because it ends delays and results more quickly in the construction of homes. To be clear, Fair Share does not want this outcome, and neither do we. Here's our solution. One of the most problematic parts of the settlement agreement is the disparity of densities in various overlay zones. Based on our analysis, we could equalize the densities to 15 units an acre across the board, with an exception of 20 units an acre in OR1, the zone across from the Short Hills Mall where the Hilton is. Alternatively, if we set all densities to 16 and OR1 to 25, then we could even drop the ill-fated and contentious DPW project. Both proposals address more of our unmet need and are even more constitutionally compliant than the existing agreement. In the binding opinion of the Englewood Cliffs decision, the court states, the affordable housing obligation is not site-specific. Rather, that obligation is borough-wide. Accordingly, if we implement either of these alternatives, the burden of proof for why our proposal is not constitutionally compliant will fall on Fair Share if it goes to trial. Fair Share cannot justify this legal inconsistency, and it is clear that we would be acting in good faith. Again, they do not want it to go to trial. Bringing these proposals to the judge is how we get back to the negotiating table. This is how negotiating ought to be done, and it is how we can reach the best outcome for our community. Thank you.
Judy Rosenthal, 97 Main Street. I'm very concerned about the statements that Buzak has made to Milburn residents. An attorney owes the highest fiduciary duty to his client. And that means, sir, look at me.
Oh, this isn't Ed
Oh,
Buzak.
where is Mr. Buzak?
This is Andy Brewer, and
I'm
he's
sorry.
sitting in for, yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
So,
Wherever he
Ed's
is.
listening, I'm
Oh,
sure.
good.
He's up there.
He owes the highest fiduciary duty to his clients. That means us. He's breached that duty. You need to fire him. I'm also concerned about Ms. Miggins' duty of loyalty and conflict of interest to the residents. I find it highly disturbing that this settlement agreement would dump 100% affordable housing units in Milburn, whereas only 20% in Chatham Road neighborhood, where Ms. Miggins has her home and office. I think that she should be recused from making any decisions in connection with fair housing because I think she's conflicted. I also want to talk about my own experience as a middle school student. If you have 100, and I went to the middle school in Milburn, I went through all the Milburn schools. If you have 100% affordable housing in the DPW site, you have kids that are going to be automatically stigmatized. And don't tell me that doesn't happen in Milburn. Those kids, when they walk under the bridge and go home to the fair share housing, everyone's gonna know that they are economically disadvantaged. And Short Hills is a tough town to live in. My kids thought we were poor. My husband and I are attorneys. They have told us they thought we were poor because some of their friends would take a private jet to go to their summer home in Maine. So don't tell me that those kids are not going to be stigmatized, and you need to think about the children. That's basically it. You need to go back to the settlement table, back to the negotiating table, and rethink this and think about what you're doing to Short Hills versus Milburn and what you're doing to future children in Milburn. Thank you.
Lisa Untrack, 29 Hobart. I don't have prepared statements, and I'm going to try and take the temperature down because I don't want to be accusatory. But what I will say is, I think it's despicable that that you're looking to build out the DPW site. I think there's toxicity there, and I live right off of Old Short Hills Road, and I do live in Short Hills, so take it down from the Milburn Short Hills thing. But I don't want to leave my house and go anywhere near Old Short Hills Road between the hours of 2:30 and 6:30 p.m. on a school day, because the traffic backs up way past Hobart Avenue. People come zooming down that road. There's no traffic light, which, by the way, we've been asking for since I first moved to town 35 years ago. I think it's a safety concern. I'm concerned about the traffic. I'm concerned about the toxicity of the site. I'm concerned about the overrunning of our schools. We've just spent a fortune adding space to the middle school and the high school. Our taxes keep going up every year for real estate. And I'm not seeing, my kids had a great education in the Milburn schools. If we double the number of students, there's no way we can get the staff to cover the schools, the space in the schools for all these kids, for them to get the kinds of educations that my children did. And so my comment is specifically about that site, the Annie Says site. I mean, the numbers are just out of control. 75 new units in that DPW site, that's just too much. It's just too much. It's too much for the town. It's too much for the township. And I'm very concerned about the flavor and the tenor of our town and the schools, which is what we're known for going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Feld, 11 Alexander Lane, Short Hills, New Jersey. I will be speaking about the overlays under my Title 40 rights when you have your second reading. And I think that should be explained to the public, that the public has a right to comment when the ordinances are read, and you did not explain that properly. I'm going to speak about the resolutions that are on the agenda. I want basically everyone to recognize that our Vice President appeared yesterday in Atlantic City, and she talked about the threat to our freedoms, liberty, and democracy. And that's what we're seeing here tonight. I want to start with the bill list. And we should look like what it was like in September 2020 and where it is today in July 19th. When you look at the bill list, we now break out the sources of monies. There's monies that are coming from trust funds. So we don't have any disputes of how the food pantry is paid. When we look at the bill list, you can see that the payments to our municipal attorneys per month has dropped tremendously. They were getting about $40,000 a month. Now it's about $24,000. Why? As to Beth McManus, she got paid. To get the time summaries, it takes usually about 5 weeks to get the time summaries based on this bill list. If everyone in the public would look at the bill list, you'll see when she did activities. She drafted the fair share plan several months ago. Why was it delayed to be presented to the public? The most important thing that sticks out on this bill list, there are payments to an insurer that's coming from our general funds. Why? And when you look at the bill list, there are payments for litigation. One of the litigants is myself, where I sued the town. The other ones are about various actions being brought by Mr. Milburn Courtyard, which is an entity controlled by Carrie Heller. But when you look at the bill list, why was the payments being made for about my cases to have dates, but Mr. Heller doesn't? We were told, and also the attorneys who representing you was never retained by this body. It was retained by the GIF insurer. I've never seen why general funds, which are trust, all the monies of these people that we pay taxes for, are now being used to pay attorneys that were never retained by this council after notice of public hearing. Why? Especially when it involves me. As to another issue, there's various resolutions where you're going to retain outside consultants. I've been talking for 2 years about every time there's a resolution or an ordinance, there should be a good housing certification of legality and form by our municipal attorneys. They don't appear here. I've been talking about certifications of availability of funds. When you look at the resolutions, they're not attached. They said there might be a certification of availability that's available upon looking at it. We need to know, because when we approve the budget, you have line item appropriations. We need to know when you approve the resolution where the monies are coming, because municipal budgeting is different. Municipal accounting is different. Monies have to be encumbered to pay the people. In addition, when you look at some of the resolutions, such as 172, 173, where you had bids, compared to when we had the flex parking removal. When the flex parking removal, you only had 2 bids, but the discrepancy between the bids was about $240,000. But at that time, we, the public, could not speak and question that disparity. Also on the bill list, your payment to our auditors. When will we receive the audit? It's very important that we see the comments to the audit. In addition, something's unique about this town. The same auditor represents the municipality, the city, and the school board. That's kind of shaky, where I think you might want sometimes a fresh set of eyes. I want to talk about justice. Lady Justice. Lady
Mr. Feld,
Justice,
I'm going to ask you to
I can have
just,
10, 15 seconds.
yes, please. Thank you.
Lady Justice is supposed to be blind. In the last couple of days, yesterday I spent about 3 hours fighting with the court system. You're paying monies in one litigation that you have not filed an answer yet. 3 times there have been motions, notices of to dismiss my case for lack of prosecution when there's motions pending before the court. I don't understand that. Also yesterday, the Bear Properties case was dismissed without prejudice. Ex parte, without notice to me, I get a note from the court. The court had entered an order where it found the discovery dispute to be moot, and it had sent the case to non-binding arbitration. Someone is doing something behind the scenes. Between Judge Garner, you saying he told us we couldn't tell you the terms. Yeah, a case that's been pending before the court that you can't get a hearing, and now you're paying people to pay me to defend, and then to get a case that gets dismissed when it was sent to the binding arbitration, and the day he was supposed to have the arbitration, the arbitrator forgets, oops, I forgot to calendar it. Something smells here. I'm telling you, I'm an attorney. I am an attorney. Everyone knows my track record, what's gone on in what I've discovered in Essex County. I'm telling you, and I told you, Maggie, and I told you, Tara, and I told Alex in January last year, we are worse. We deal from the bottom of the deck. Everyone that's here today is asking, why weren't
Mr.
we told the
Feld?
terms of the settlement before you approved them?
Thank you,
were dealt from
Mr.
the bottom
Feld.
of the deck.
Thank you, Mr. Feld.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Glenn Paparian. I reside at 64 Mountain View Road. I want to talk about zoning overlays a little bit. I live in the South Mountain section of Milburn. Just to the north of the South Mountain section is the B2 district. Just to the west of the South Mountain neighborhood is the B4 district. Just to the south of South Mountain is the CMO district. The way the agreement has the zoning overlays presently, the B2, if it's fulfilled to the potential, would allow 612 residential units. The B4 would allow 568 residential units. The CMO would allow 846 residential units. So if you add the 3 districts surrounding South Mountain, you have a potential of 2,026 future units to be developed. Not necessarily will be developed tomorrow, but potentially can be developed. They're paved a way to allow it to be developed. Add the 150 units from Annie says, the total units is 2,176 units. 2,176 units. South Mountain has a little over 1,400 households. That's it. So this is a 150% increase in density of units. It will tremendously affect the schools, not just South Mountain, but Wyoming, probably Glenwood and Hartshorn and Deerfield as well. But certainly it will affect South Mountain, the traffic. It will affect our small town feel, our charm that we have. It'll be gone. It will change the character of our town. The final compliance hearing, my understanding, has been adjourned to later in August. I think August 26th, if I'm correct. Okay, you have time. So I don't know when you'll be voting on it, if it's voting today for the zoning overlays or next month. But I'd like you to use the time. If you do have to do it today, I would ask you to pause or postpone today, just for a few weeks. Get together with the town planner, get together with Mr. Buzak. Look at Mr. Kung's and Mr. Sakamandi's alternative plans. They actually give a higher percentage of unmet need to fair share. They'll be happy about it. It also spreads the distribution more evenly across the town. I think it'll be fair. I think you won't get the pushback from fair share because they will be having a higher percentage. And I think ultimately the agreement will be more equitable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Bill Horvat. I live at 40 Whitney Road. And like my friends and neighbors in South Mountain, I'm right next to this zone that's in question. Actually, I'm right next to the town yard. Now I'm going to take a little different perspective here, more of a generalist. And I find there are three key elements to this situation that need to be addressed. First, and not the most important, is that I had thought the concept of projects, as you will, had lost credibility over time. That idea of taking one site and jamming it full of low-income people was not considered the best practice. And in fact, we've all seen projects blown up and the buildings destroyed. Even Newark, when it builds something now, it builds townhouses. Second, this concept of building up the density, adding residential units in a downtown area without providing for commercial space on the ground floor doesn't make sense. More people need more commercial services. You look at any major city, whether it's Manhattan, whether it's Paris, whether it's Milan, they have that concept. The first floor is negozio, the businesses. The second and some floors might be offices, and the top is always residential. Now, the third point, and the most important one I want to bring up, is the allocation of these units has no preference for Millburn residents or workers. You delegate, this agreement delegates the recruitment of people to an agency outside of the township. Now, why is that not a really great idea? One day I was in town hall and a woman came in, she says, I'm about ready to retire. I work in town and I see you're gonna have affordable units out by Canoebrook. The person at the desk says, yeah, well, you have to go talk to the builder. You know, it's as if they didn't even know what was going on. The second example is I was over at a friend's house and he's asked me, oh, I got my stepson living in the basement. Could we get him into one of these units? And I had to say to him, well, you're gonna have to go to an agency in East Orange or other town to make an application. We have no system for it. And finally, when my sister was, let's say, unable to work any longer, I had to travel a half hour each way to see her. Had we had senior housing, it could have been 5 minutes away. The net result was after about a year, without somebody looking out for her constantly, she had to go into a nursing home. And then 2 years after that, she died of COVID. So finally, I'd like to point out that all of this litigation was occurring during a pandemic. And that was an exceptional time. And I would think that you could make a very good case that this situation demands more time, more public discussion with the voters and the residents. And add to that the small thing about your lawyer advising you that you could keep something confidential that a judge had said was not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Evening, my name's Dan. I live, Daniel Mai, I live in South Mountain section by Haran Circle, kind of where the flooding always tends to happen. I don't know if you guys know that area.
What number, sir?
2626.
And how do you spell your last name, please?
M as in Mary, A as in Alpha, I as in Igloo, A as in Alpha.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'll make this real short. After hearing some of the people speak before me, I feel almost selfish, because I was just really, my frustration over this entire project had to do with the traffic. I feel really selfish to think about that, because I saw some other smart people than me pointed out, it sounds almost like that anecdote, oh, somebody think about the children, but really, honestly, the children in this situation. I mean, I never thought about the stigmatism that would come with it. I mean, there's so many things that cannot be put down in a study. And they're just things that we as humans have to realize, maybe we've got to do it a different way. I'm not saying maybe you don't have to not do it, but It's okay to make mistakes. If you guys know me, I make so many mistakes. It's not too late to fix course. That's all I'm asking. So again, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Josh Scharf, 11 Hawthorne Road in Short Hills. A fact that I do want to bring up is that Ms. Miggins is a realtor here in town. She is a principal in a firm called the Compass Group, which is a large organization that deals in different real estate, commercial real estate, rental purchases. And as a principal, somebody who is in the realty business, it's incumbent upon you to recuse yourself. And this isn't the first time I've said this, but there's an absolute conflict. Attorneys have stepped forward and told you that, others have told you that, and the impression of impropriety is clear. The community just doesn't feel comfortable having somebody who could benefit from having thousands new rental apartments in town, with each one getting commission for rental. You've made decisions in this matter until now. You voted on it. I believe, quite a number of other people believe, that it was completely inappropriate. And this shouldn't be. And I think you should be more careful about the decisions that you make and choices that you make in recusing yourself, which this is one that absolutely you should have recused yourself from. Nice smile.
Thank you.
Mark Webb, 26 South Mountain Road. So Mayor and Township Committee, I just want to thank most of you for coming to visit us, first of all, in South Mountain Road the last couple of weeks to talk to us, taking your time to do that. Much appreciated. You've told us that you believe that you were legally forbidden from sharing details of the Fair Share Housing Agreement prior to signing it back in August 2021. Unfortunately, this belief has turned out to be incorrect, as the judge stated that there was no such restriction. Second of all, you've told us that the deal you negotiated with Fair Share Housing was the best deal that could have been negotiated. This has also turned out to be incorrect, as we see from Frank Sakamundi's and Jerry Kung's analysis, that comparable towns were able to negotiate their unmet need down to a much lower level than Milburn. Third of all, you've told us that agreements cannot be amended once signed. However, we see that Hackensack and Evesham have amended their signed agreements. For the sake of our town, our schools, and our children, we cannot afford to make any more mistakes. This agreement is not fair, and there additionally seems to be a complete absence of equitable sharing, given the unequal distribution of densities across the township. This agreement, when fully implemented and constructed, has the potential to increase the population of our town by 70%. You've told us that since signing this agreement almost 1 year ago, nothing has been done to prepare our schools, roads, or other infrastructure to handle such an increase. I think you're doing your best. However, a lot of mistakes seem to have already been made in this process. The agreement as it stands today would be devastating to the town as we know it. The people in Milburn have been disenfranchised from the democratic process, having had no opportunity to shape this agreement. We implore the Township Committee to reopen the negotiation, bring in new legal expert with a track record of achieving a fairer and more equitable shared outcome than Milburn has been able to achieve so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
actually going to talk about affordable housing, but I also want to address something else briefly. My name is Leah Cruz. I live at 39 Whitney Road. I just want to ask about the police blotter. It doesn't seem like we really have a newspaper in town anymore. I mean, we have some sources of news, but not comprehensive. So I went on the township website to look at the police blotter just because there's such a rise in crime. And the last time it was updated was in May. And I just want to know if there's a policy that is updated monthly or where I can find out any crime. I had heard of an incident on my street and I went to look for information and I could not find anything. I have a daughter who just turned 17 who's newly driving and I'm concerned for her safety when she's out driving alone. So anyway, I would love if that can be addressed. And now on to the topic at hand. I concur with the majority of residents here. I'm very concerned about the 100% affordable housing unit and the traffic it will cause, the stigma, what everyone else has said, and especially the rush to push this through. I do feel like it can be renegotiated. I don't think anything is final yet. And I hope the town doesn't go through another debacle. A la the speed bumps on Glen Avenue that had to be redone and taken out. I don't know why that happened. Complete streets, we had to spend money to undo that. It seems like a lot of things in town are pushed through. And then we have to undo them at great expense to taxpayers. So I really, really hope you will listen to everyone who is here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Leon Schrag, 8 Greenwood Drive, Milburn, Milburn, New Jersey. So I'm listening to everyone here and taking it all in, and I'm hoping that you're taking it all in. I work as an attorney, and I do have some questions now that everybody has raised some issues. One of the questions I have is, as an attorney, when I work for a client, the client says, okay, I want you to negotiate for me. And I go out and I negotiate for the client. I then go back to the client and I say, okay, this is what they're willing to do. Are you willing to accept it? And they tell me, yes, we are willing, or no, we're not. And what I can't understand is why that didn't happen yet. You guys all work for us. We don't work for you. You work for us. Your obligation is to us. So I just hope that now that we've sort of aired out our differences, and it's probably just a misunderstanding, that we now can all work together to come to a resolution to this. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Everybody knows me, Dennis Fabian, 12th, I used to live at 12th Hawthorne Road, so I live in that vicinity. I live at 1 Barbary Lane right now. I've been in this town for well over 40 years. I feel like a broken record. I didn't bring Erin Brockovich with me tonight, but we are facing that type of a moment, whether it's now, 5 years, or 10 years. It is a disaster to build on that site. Even though they say it can be remediated, mercury is a very dangerous material to remediate. Can it be remediated? Sure it can, as long as it doesn't turn into methyl mercury. And then it's a disaster in the air. That would affect downtown and the middle school. The first person who gets ill on that site when they move in will sue the township. They will sue all of us. And the township committee is responsible for that. People mention fiduciary responsibility. I'm not sure that any of the people that negotiate really realize their fiduciary responsibility to the town. The same characters that negotiate as planners and as attorneys represent every town, just in different, it's a what I would call, pardon my French, a circle jerk. They go to every town, each person gets paid off,
and they go to the next town and get paid off. You can approach any attorney in the state, and they will be involved in these type of litigations, and it will continue and continue. The Fair Share Housing Project, someone should look at the Mount Laurel decision. That was originally based on farmland. I lived in that area. Black farm workers could not get jobs to work, to get places to live who worked on the farms. And they approached the attorneys to help them find places to live. Now it's not the people approaching the attorneys are approaching the people. It's really bass backwards. And it's just a self-perpetuating organization of making money from towns and builders being paid off. There's no doubt about it. I think you're making a big mistake. I've been harping on this for a while. Nobody's against affordable housing, but the way it's being done is inappropriate. 100% affordable housing hasn't worked anywhere, and especially on a toxic site. And there's been no feasibility studies done in this town to show what it's going to do to this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
It's Kirsten Schweitzer for 78 Wellington Avenue. I just had a question. I read there was on the internet tonight and I saw a neighborhood website. I don't think anybody of our neighbors, barely know anything about what's going on. We don't get anything, any information about it. And here we are in the middle of the summer where everybody's awake. And that's how everything getting voted on in this town. It was, nearly everything that's controversial is being voted on when people are away in the summer. Please, just wait till people are coming home and realize what's going on. And please inform us. I'm up in the Glenwood section. I don't know anything about this before I sort of started opening some neighborhood website tonight. And it's really not very fair. I heard that somebody had a meeting down in Mountainside. Where is it up in Glenwood? Where is it? Nothing is going on. And I don't know if you're just picking certain section of the town or what. It was the flooding too, it was Mountainside, but I think we have flooding up in Glenwood too. But it's always been done in the summer, but people are not home. And I know you added, a lot of people's attitude, oh, you can do Zoom, but people are overseas and all over and can't participate. And frankly, I have been here the whole summer. And I did not know very much about this. I sort of once in a while hear people saying, and then I'm saying, where do you have the information? But there's nothing out there. So please wait till people are coming back and to get us involved, because there's a lot of people that's really against it. So I would appreciate it to wait. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jean Pasternak, 342 Hobart Avenue. I'd like to start by asking Ms. Miggins, as this prior speaker asked, why are you inviting people to private neighborhood meetings and gatherings without the entire neighborhood being invited? Can you explain to your constituents why you said, I don't feel comfortable with them being here, referring, I believe, to Mr. Kuhn and Frank Sacamendi, who tried to attend and were invited by the host and the owner of the home who hosted you down in South Mountain. That is absolutely unacceptable behavior. These two gentlemen have done an absolute great service to this community, doing this analysis. Say that to them. Disgusting. It disgusts me, knowing what I know about you, Maggie Miggins. Stop dividing our community. Stop pitting Milburn against Short Hills. All of you. One, we are Milburn, all of us. We all pay taxes here. We send our children to the same schools. We all expect to be treated the same way. You should not be dividing us and treating preferentially those who you perceive to be in favor of what your agenda is all about.
In January of 2021, the BA McDonald and Committeeman Viniak, who's not here but on Zoom, made a presentation entitled Legal Analysis, covering legal-related expenses between 2013 and 20 regarding the township's legal fees. It has come to light that they failed to include the cost for the pre-Silverman 85 Woodland litigation negotiations. This was prior to the builder's remedies lawsuit, the Upton negotiation, and the negotiation and litigation costs for the attempted purchase of the Woodmont property. This came to light because of the late release of executive session minutes and the Oprah request done by various community members with time summaries of the lawyers involved. How much did we really spend on legal expenses? And how about planners? How do we know what we have? We don't even know how many planners half the time. One goes, one comes. The township is not a black hole for spending our taxpayer monies without accountability. We need a true and honest analysis of what we're spending and who we're spending it on. We need transparency. We also have heard continuously about this misinformation narrative regarding kicking the can down the road. The Upton project is evidence of that ridiculous misinformation. We got credit for it in the RDP calculation as well as group homes. That isn't a can kicked down the road. We actually have affordable housing that people are living in. No one past or present on the Township Committee explained why we didn't file a declaratory judgment in 2015 when we were required to do it and delayed it instead to April 2018. The TC was run by some of you here, as well as in the majority by Democrats since that time, 2015. We'd like an answer. Please answer us. Who can we trust? We're getting lies about the legal analysis. We're getting misinformation about kicking a can down the road. Mr. Wasserman, who's one of our negotiators on this deal, said after a public meeting right here in this room, when he was confronted by his constituents, he'd vote differently if he knew then what he knows now. It's not right. It just isn't. And I think you all know that. There's one thing I'd like to point out, a woman who has tried to get on to this Zoom meeting several times in the past. Her name is Jean Gerardo. She is asked to please be added on. She's an occupational health nurse for a chemical company. She said the chemical company she worked for had mercury at their New Jersey site and arsenic at their Arizona site. These were some of the chemicals she tested on her employees or their employees every year, and some more often to see if they were affected by the chemicals. Mercury sinks in water and cannot be removed by watering it down, like some people in this community have proffered. The company's property is being remediated, and neither the DEP or the EPA recommend encapsulation, which is what your engineering firm or whatever they're called recommended. So I think it's important that you listen to these people in the community. I asked Mr. McDonald to please get in touch with a former, I think he was an environmental commission member who also said very similar things, a chemical engineer. We really like you to listen to our community. Look at the brilliance we have. We're very lucky to have these people. Thank you, Ms. Please listen. Pasternak. Thank you.
Township committee members, thank you for spending a hot July evening. I'm going to try to read quickly so I don't pass over my time. So I'm the 5G lady. I'm going to be the one person that's going to work on this for
If you'll just say your name and address.
Christine Best, 15 Fairfield Terrace, Short Hills, New Jersey. So as you guys know, I've been out here 2 times. I just forwarded an email with probably about 20 links to different 5G technology, scientific studies, comments, things that other towns are doing to remediate the sort of onslaught from wireless technology companies. So I'm just going to read what I sent to you guys tonight. Due to the extensive health risks present with 5G cellular technology, each town has a responsibility to its citizens to vet safety concerns and significantly limit the rollout of this technology to protect the people residing in each locales. Already, I've seen 5G cell technology placed on the corner of Milburn Avenue and Main Street without any town notices that I'm aware of, or even a safety sign warning residents and passerbys and workers of the EMF radiation coming from those cells. This is a highly populated area, and people work within a close location to the rooftop tower. In addition, there's a 5G cell tower that gives off significant levels of radiation. I measured it myself near the Tari building on Bleecker Street, where the residents and workers in that area, there's quite a few employees at Tari. My husband used to be a CFO there, where they are aware of significant levels of radiation near this building and on Bleecker Street. Are there any other towers or small cells on rooftops scheduled to go up within our township borders or close to our borders? How would residents of the lower part of Glenwood feel about a tower on Springfield's new luxury apartment complex on Milburn Avenue radiating over them? Do we have control over what Springfield does? Because that's gonna really affect those people in that neighborhood if that happens. And they might wanna make some money off of that. Did the cell tower in the church on the corner of Hartshorn and Parsonage ever convert to 5G, or was it dismantled? Do the people in the new luxury high-rise next to the Short Hills Mall realize there are small cell towers, rooftop towers on the adjacent office building? I don't know how those got approved. But I would hope that there's a large safety notice so people can actually read it, so maybe they might want to move out. Do the people, did we approve this, or was the office building allowed to just install this without going through an approval process? How many more developments or buildings will add small cells in our township? God forbid we follow other township leads and install a tower over our police station, churches, schools, fire station, or public offices. If you drive around all over the Jersey Shore, you'll see these towers, you'll see them next to different things, all over police stations, the poor policemen, I can't even imagine. Do we care about the people that keep our town alive and well? Does Milburn have a position and processes challenged? And do they have a plan in place? There was a small tech plan I saw in about 2018. I haven't seen any work on that. It was on the township website. I would like to hear an update on this from the committee. More concerning is the intention of wireless carriers to install small cells on light posts every 200 to 250 feet in residential zones, right outside your little kid's window. That's very, very close. That is to work on small spectrology as it affects appliances, et cetera, smart appliances, which is completely ridiculous. Do you know that they actually kill trees? If you put a plant next to a Wi-Fi router and let it sit there for a month, it will die, okay? Imagine what it does to your child. I've asked the question in 2 meetings and will be asked the question again this evening. When will Milburn Township address this, and when will a committee be formed? This is an urgent issue and more critical than you think. If we allow a pervasive install in our town, no one can escape, no one. I don't care what your background is, what your political beliefs are, no one will escape the deleterious effects of this type of technology. Such health effects are DNA damage, cell apoptosis, cancer, chronic fatigue syndrome, headache, dizziness, opening of the blood-brain barrier. Metal, if you have metals, like I actually have mercury poisoning, so if anybody wants to consult on that about the township project, I know all about it. I lost $3 million in income because I couldn't work for 10 years because of it. So, blood pressure dysregulation, thyroid disease, leukemia, lymphoma, personality, mental health disorders, anxiety, eye damage, digestive issues, immune dysfunction, pneumonia, bronchitis, testicular and ovarian damage, etc. It basically destroys your health from the inside out. What will you do once this is installed and people become gravely ill? And God forbid real estate values drop. Or will we be the town? Will we be the town that's safe, where everyone is clamoring to move in? Or will we not? If you don't have your health, what do you actually have? I don't care how much money you have, what stature you have. If you don't have your health, you have nothing. I think it's time that you guys contact me. I'm happy to set up a committee. I just really care about people. I don't want to see anybody get cancer or anything. Okay, that's it.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine.
Good evening, members of the Township Committee. Good evening, residents. My name is Jackie Benjamin Lieberberg, and I reside at 36 Kilmer Drive, Short Hills. From 2018 through 2020, I served on the Township Committee, and I was your mayor. As briefly as I could say, I would like to share my thoughts with respect to the Fair Share Housing Agreement and the proposal to build 75 affordable units at the Department of Public Works. Unfortunately, many of you in this room believe we should renegotiate with Fair Share Housing. We should go back to the table and try to work out a different deal. I don't believe this is the path I support or believe that it is best for all of the residents. Renegotiation, I don't believe, is an option. For decades, Milburn did not address its affordable housing obligation and had kicked the can down the road strategy. We are now at the point we are in extreme danger of losing our immunity and could end up with many more units than have been negotiated. For those of you who think the Department of Public Works site just happened, Please know that back in 2018 and 19, I served with other residents and members of the Township Committee on a task force that was formed to explore the viability of moving the Department of Public Works to another location and redevelop that site. I'm strongly in favor of the plan to construct the 75 affordable units. It would allow the municipality to maintain control over the development. The addition of these apartments will create more business for the downtown, and it will not impact the density of the project in our residential neighborhoods directly. It is quite conceivable that Fair Share would legally dictate Millburn to build hundreds of units located anywhere that the commission sees fit without any regard to existing ordinances or open space. Unfortunately, Fair Share does not care about density, school systems, traffic. We could end up like Englewood Cliffs with a court-ordered multiple units rather than a negotiated settlement. In summary, for the sake of our residents, both existing and future, I believe the township should proceed with this 75-unit affordable development under our agreements. I don't believe we can afford to roll the dice and risk the loss of immunity in our good faith negotiations. Going forward, we must be proactive and move the township and work within our obligations as mandated. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's okay.
Good evening. Oyewolabi, 46 Maple Street. With all apology, Jackie, I disagree with you. I fully disagree with you. I think we can renegotiate. I think the residents have spoken. And I think that's what we should do. We need to lead by example. And when one makes a mistake, you make sure that you make things right. A mistake has been made by all of you. Jackie, again, with apology to you, you are one of the people who kicked the can down the road. We need to listen to what Mr. Sakamandi and what Mr. Jerry Kong and myself have been saying. If all of you want to continue to get your voices heard, you need to make a change come November. Actually, you need to start making a change come September. That's the only way that we can change the course of what's happening right now. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Barry Wolfson. I live at 30 Rosedale Avenue in Millburn. The one problem I've had with everything I've heard tonight is everything seems to be taken in its own component without considering it as a system. We live in a town where a bunch of people, businesses and all interact with each other. If we're going to increase the size of the town's population by 70%, that's going to have huge ramifications. The schools will not work. We can't put 70% more students in the same schools that are already overcrowded and make it work. So somebody will have to make the schools bigger. The roads will not work. If we have 70% more people, there's not enough road. There's not enough parking lot. There's not enough, let's say, sewer and water. Everything will have to be changed. Who is going to pay for this? Are my property taxes going to double in 5 years? Are they going to triple in 5 years? There are huge expenses involved in doubling a population in a short period of time. And I haven't heard anybody mention anything about how we are going to deal with that. Economically, it just doesn't make sense to add this level of population. The other thing is, and a lot of other people probably have a better understanding than I do, but it appears to me that there was a mechanism used to get this through where if they build a certain number of affordable housing, they get to build a bunch of, let's say, unaffordable housing. I want to know if anybody explored just making affordable housing, adding, let's say, instead of like 2,000 units, making 400 units, but which were only for affordable housing. It seems like we're doing things the wrong way. We're like doubling the size of the town, making sure that some people can profit hugely. But I think as taxpayers, we're all going to be left holding the bag for this. And when we have to have double the schools, double the roads, double the parking lots, double the sewer and water, all these things have to be paid to make it so now we have a town that has twice as many people in it and the systems to support that. It's going to be among other things, a financial disaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfson.
David Morrow, One Ivy Terrace, Milburn Township. First, I'd like to thank all of my fellow residents and neighbors for all of the work they've done in shedding light on what is obviously a disturbing condition that's put in front of all of us here in Milburn Township. I have two questions to ask the Township Committee. One is rhetorical, one they can ponder with their own answers. Why did you come to Milburn Township and choose to run for political office to serve this community? The second question, which you may ponder, is after hearing all of our residents delve into the granular of the Fair Share Housing Center settlement agreement, can you in good conscience vote for this settlement agreement? Thank you.
Richard Cyber, 27 Southern Slope Drive, Township Committee. Very simply, you called this meeting to vote on the ordinances tonight, correct? The overlay, right? So very simply, vote no. Here's your opportunity to grow some kahunas and vote no. Vote no tonight. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else in the room before we go to Zoom, please? Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is David Hughes, 24 Ferncliff Terrace, Short Hills. Just a few comments. The deadlines set by courts are often negotiable. They are not necessarily written in stone for good and sufficient reasons, articulately presented to the court. The court reserves the right to revise orders previously given. I would ask that, given the sensitivity of this issue, that perhaps you should reconsider a final vote on the plan that's been prepared, and ask for a little more time. I would suggest that, given the nature of this issue, its sensitivity by its very nature, that this meeting would have required the high school gym or maybe the ball field if the knowledge of the subject matter was more widely known. And that and the more people would have a lot more articulate things to say than I. There's an issue in the examination of the ground contaminants that I don't quite understand. There are a bunch of chemicals there, mercury and others have been mentioned. And it seems to me that when specific concentrations of certain chemicals are disclosed by ground examination, that one of them is mercury. I believe, this is my belief, it's not carved in stone, that the Federal Environmental Protection Agency is required to opine on the fitness of the ground for whatever use is proposed. I would not want to discover that after the after the fact. So please explore the necessity of an EPA, federal EPA concurrence with the conclusions of our experts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Monahas from 11 South Mountain Road.
Thank you.
I'd say for everybody in the room, first, why are we here? Why do we live in Milburn? I think we live here because there's a tremendous school system, commutable trains, and a phenomenal culture and community. And I think a real estate broker, any real estate broker here would extol all of those things to potential residents. But now I think we're faced with a plan that really compromises pedestrian safety and the walkability of our town. It overwhelms our schools and it shifts our town culture. I'll say I live directly on my street abuts the B2 district. I live probably 200 yards away. But anyway, I'm here really to share a story of Barrington, Rhode Island. Barrington, Rhode Island is a town with nearly the exact, it's very similar to ours, absolute parity from an income standpoint, from affluence and school system, and also having that real small town feel. And I've learned how they handle this. I think we can learn some terrific lessons from Barrington, Rhode Island. To address a similar fair housing lawsuit that they had, the town of Barrington first put together a housing board that included residents, leveraging their legal expertise, their finance and urban planning expertise. We have all of that talent here, and I think at past town meetings, I've heard people volunteer to actually create some of those plans and be involved. I'm not seeing that happen. And it's not too late for us to pivot our approach. The township in Barrington also successfully worked with 2 housing corporations. So it's really complicated by 2 housing corporations in their case. Really, and they represented, or the organizations represented communities with a lower mean income than Barrington. What I'm hearing from Barrington and people who live there is that the housing has really improved the town. It's more diverse. There's a crop of kids that work their tails off and are really appreciative of the opportunity to live there. But why did Barrington succeed? One of the keys to success, as I understand it, is they created pocket communities, pocket neighborhoods with a mix of rental and ownership housing. The small neighborhoods made it easier for kids, and it also didn't create a strain on a particular school. So what we can learn from the lessons of Barrington: involve residents, build full transparency, and integrate affordable housing in a manner that retains the integrity and the safety of our town and our residents. It's not too late to consider and pivot our current approach, and I hope you consider that at today's vote.
Thank you so much.
10 seconds. I wanted to publicly apologize to council because I got your identity wrong. I was misinformed by a member of the community who has also apologized to me for misidentifying you. I'm very sorry, council.
Thank you.
Apologies here, that's the first.
Al Carlin, 46 Milburn Avenue, Milburn, New Jersey. Been a resident here for 19 years and 18 days and a few hours. Anyway, I learned a few. First word my father told me was "sackle." You understand it? Common sense. And I need a little bit of common sense. You know, sackle, you've heard of it. You've heard of it. And also, when I was working with Israeli intelligence, first they said "stiyot," and it's nonsense. Stiyot. It must be Israeli here someplace, but whatever. We hear so much nonsense that comes from different people. Let's get the truth and let's use it. Talk about negotiation. I used to have to negotiate with $1 million contracts. How well did we negotiate? Mr. Wasserman, negotiate. Who did the negotiating? How many different people negotiated? Did we have professional negotiators? Who did it? How can we go back and renegotiate? I mean, I negotiated, I gave it to someone else. I worked in subcontracts, get to the contracts, up to the attorneys. They sent it back here, said, you screwed up, excuse me, you made a mistake. Redo this. And then you go back because these were millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. It was facilities planning. They made sure we didn't build in certain places because if we built in a certain place, it just didn't work. This was General Electric Company when it was a real company. And it just was, you couldn't build because it wouldn't work, because we would get sued if we didn't do it in the right locations. And this was all over the United States and in the world. Just simple stuff like that. As far as other stuff, just say one thing, taking the menace out of meetings. Ever wonder what happened to civility? Meetings and public forums have a way of bringing out the best and also the worst in human behavior. As we both know, as we see someplace. We're all neighbors, and I agree. As far as former mayor here, I read what she wrote and she tried. And that's one of the reasons I started coming to the meetings, because I didn't agree with the way the meetings would be handled. Because there were a number of mistakes. And, you know, I'm not that bright, but I do read. In my profession, I had to read, well, the Federal Register, 22 CFR 120-30, ITAR. I dealt with weapons and things like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carlin.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room before we go to the Zoom? If there's anyone else in the room that wishes to speak, yes, please. Thank you.
My name is Sharon Brender. I live at 14 Whittingham Terrace in Milburn. I want you to know that I absolutely do believe that we have an obligation to develop affordable housing. I understand that some of you believe or were told that there was a time constraint in working with fair share housing to develop a plan. I want you to know that I believe that fair share housing's sole motivation is to provide the maximum number of affordable units in each town. Fair Share does not care about the impact of their plan on the residents of any particular town. If they did, they would never have proposed the current plan. On the other hand, you as members of the Township Committee have the fiduciary obligation to represent the best interests of our community. So many members of the community have well-justified and very serious concerns about the effect of the existing plan on traffic, safety, and the impact on our schools. Lastly, the fact that Fair Share suggested building an income segregated housing project on contaminated land located at the dump tells me that Fair Share is really only interested in the numbers. Not only do they not care about the current residents of our town, but they don't even care about the low and moderate income people they claim they want to serve. How could anyone who professes to care about low-income families even suggest that they be housed on an income segregated community on contaminated land? The site that is commonly known as the town dump. Aside from the stigma of living in an income segregated community as opposed to living among people who are paying market rents, they will be living at a site that was not only contaminated, but will always be known as the town dump. I don't know about your children, but mine were teased and bullied, and they did not live at the dump. Lastly, if any of the residents who live at that site becomes ill, they could claim it was caused by contamination at the site. Even that, even if that is eventually proved not to be the case, the town would still
Hello?
Alex, we cannot hear anything from the room. I can hear what Susan was saying, but cannot hear anybody in the room now.
Hello? Hello?
Yes. Susan, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just don't have any view.
Right, right. So let's wait and see.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know what happened.
The volume just got turned off like 2 seconds ago.
I know when the last person was speaking, all of a sudden it went.
Right, right.
Well, should I just tell you?
If you want to, but we can wait for everyone to hear.
You could tell me too, Susan.
Okay, because it's kind of one of them is like a little out of left field and it's new business. So,
okay, so they're taking a break, Susan. So I guess.
Yeah, maybe just hold off.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'll stay tuned.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alex, can you hear me? I can't hear you at all. Can you hear me? Test, test. Test. Test.
Sanjay? Hello?
Hi. We're just testing. Test, test, 1, 2, 3, Alex. I can't hear you. No. I can see you talking, but I can't hear you.
I can't see anything.
Recording in progress.
Do you hear me?
I can, Susan.
Hi. Oh, wait.
I said I can hear you. I'm not sure if they
Hi,
can.
Susan. Yes, we can. I think all Zoom can hear each other. If everyone would just stand by, please. Thank you. We're going to be testing.
Okay, I'm gonna turn
Okay.
off
Thank you.
my phone because,
That'd be great, Susan. Thank you. Susan, would you please leave and come back? Oh, they're gonna move you, Susan, okay? But we're gonna
I'm
let
gonna
you
leave.
back in. It started when you came on, so we're just gonna put you back in the
okay.
waiting room, okay? I didn't want to think you're
Okay.
letting you go, okay? No problem.
Alex, and what's up?
Alex, testing. Can you hear me? Testing.
Christine, I can hear you.
Thank you.
Did you hear that?
Everyone, thank you so much for your patience. We are continuing trying to get this up and running. So we're using another way to get another laptop in there so we can continue public comment period. So we expect about 5 minutes and we will give you an update. Thank you so much.
Hello? Can I just try to put this? So you're gonna have to, are you muted? We're gonna have feedback somewhere. It's fine. That's correct. You hear it? Oh, I know it. Okay. You muted it. Oh, I see. Yes. Do a test. No, it's because it's too close to this. I think we have to. It's just.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Unfortunately, we're not able to get it back. So what we're going to do, we're going to reboot. So we're going to ask everyone to sign off and come back on in about 5 minutes. Okay, and we'll hold off on hopefully it'll start working. And about 9:10, hopefully we'll have the meeting start over again, okay? Thank you so much.